We have sent close to 200,000 pieces of literature down to Cuba. Our little Buscano La Paz, specially prepared for the Cuban Union. It's not this one, but it looks like this, with just a little bit variation. A few months ago, I got a call, an email from the treasurer down at the Cuban Union, and he said, we've got a few of the books left here in Havana after they'd done all of their campaigns and distributions. He said, is there something special you'd like done with these? And I said, well, David, you're the man. Do whatever you want. Just make sure they get out, get going. And so I got a note back. He said, we have a family day on May, whatever, this last weekend. He said, where we go to all the government offices and we give them a book on the family and whatever other little pamphlets we have. He said, we'd like to give some of your books. I said, well, that'd be great. Do it. He said, it'd be nice if you would come down and be a part of this. And I said, when and what and how? And he said, well, just come on down and be a part of this. And then I got an email from my translator, Julio, down there. He said, oh, you should come down and be a part of this. And I thought, okay. So I went down and I met with David. Let me, I'm going to start right here. I want you to remember this picture. We'll talk about this one in just a little bit, all right? This is David Diaz. He is the Union Treasurer in Havana, and he is the man who has orchestrated with me to get our books down to Cuba. He's Cuban. Here he's saying hello and he's saying thank you to everybody here in this room and everybody who can hear my voice and see this slide. He is saying thank you for your help and interest in the Cuban people. Now, he took what books were left in the container after I said to him, David, do what you want. And he sent so many to this church, so many to this church. I have 3 pages, 3 pages of churches that he sent boxes of books to that were left over from the last shipment that we sent down. And this is all that was left in the container when I arrived. And so we took these and we took them to a couple of other churches that needed them. The Friday evening, we attended, Julio and I. This is at the Cuban Union Church in Havana. We attended a young people's. Don't laugh. We attended a young people's meeting, Vespers. All the young people are leading out, and they have an air conditioner up there, if you can believe that. That is a single air conditioner in that church. The rest of the building has fans. This is the church we went to Sabbath morning. This is the largest church in a town, an area within Havana called Vibora. And that is the what's locally known affectionately as the center of the Cuban universe of the Adventist Church. That is, I don't know if it was a apartment building, a warehouse, whatever, but inside of there, it's looking like we're about 2/3 of the way from the front. There's the pastor preaching. That says Messengers of Hope on the back wall there, for those of you that can speak Spanish. No air conditioner, no fans, all the windows are open. Contrary to what we have been told for many years, religion is not an arrestable offense in Cuba. Not anymore, not right now. These are some of the books that are outside of that larger church that people are coming to the back. This is our books, by the way, that they're going to and taking from. We're in the back of the church. This is Julio. This is my translator. Julio learned to speak English from watching DVDs, American DVDs with the English turned on and the Spanish subtitles. You know, he has translated for me and translated for others to me, and he and his lovely family are just some of the sweetest people. But this is the book we sent down, Buscando la Paz Interior, and on the top right there it says No para la venta. It means it's not for sale. It has to be on there because otherwise it becomes a commercial interest and taxable by the government. That's right. And this is at the church. This is somebody ready to go out. This is the other book that they were giving away. Hope for the Families of Today is what it translates out to. And that little blue and green thing there. And like I said, it was a very small number of them that they had. There were, infinitely more of our books that they were able to give away. And they did the best they could. There were about 400, maybe 500 people in that large church that you saw the front of. And I was sitting in the back with Julio. He was translating for me, and we were sitting with David and his wife, David Diaz and his wife. And down the front of the church are a couple of tables, one with the family book on and one with our book on, about several hundred of our books on this one table. And the pastor comes out and he begins to quote from, I believe, I can't remember his early writings. James, I have a message for you. The Lord has told me that you should print a little paper, as we know as the present truth, if you remember. Print a little paper and give it away, and people will give more money. And as they do, you print more, give it away, and this will be as a light that goes around the whole world. And he's reading very specific passages from the writings of Ellen White regarding the bookwork, and up on the back of the church it says Messengers of Hope, and he's referring to it to the books that they don't have a lot of, and they can't just go out and give away, as silent messengers. And I was very intrigued with this. I thought, oh my, I wish everybody back home could hear this. And he's quoting and preaching and quoting, and he begins to say several names. And these people come to the front of the church, and I hear my name. And I look at Julio, he looks at me, and he says he wants you to come down to the front of the church. And I wasn't prepared for that at all. I had no words prepared. But I go down to the front, and he introduces this one, and he introduced me as being responsible for giving them these books. He said, would you like to say a few words to the church? And I did. And I said, well, I represent, a much larger group that has made these books possible. Many Americans have made this possible for you to have these books. I said, this is a miracle, and I'm very happy to be a part of all of these books that have come into Cuba, and not just the books, but the tracts. We had a lady donate 2 times a large number of tracts. The love letter from Jesus, which we sent down there with our books, and they've given all of those away. I mean, they went before the books. The church members begged for these, and the whole church is amen, amen. I mean, hundreds of people are giving you thanks for making this possible. Whoever can hear my voice, if you've been a part of this mission to Cuba, the thanks are coming from the church in Cuba. We had prayer, and I begin to notice that the people who are at the front are higher ups in the church from the different delegations that we had sent books to the first time, when Julio and I went from one end of the island to the other in a 30-hour truck drive, sleeping in the truck the whole way on those nice Cuban highways. And I begin to notice that these are the people that we met, and they came after and said, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. No one has done this for them. No one has just given them books. This other little family book that they got was on a much smaller table and had a much smaller number at the front of the church than did ours. And the reason for that is that the church higher-ups say, would you like to sponsor some of this book? Can you afford to buy some of these books so that we can place an order and they can be shipped down to us from a place in Miami? It's complicated, but this person says, yes, I'll pay for 5 books. Not 5 cases, 5 books. Another one over here says, yeah, I'll pay for 10 books. And we're talking $5 maybe, for 10 books. It's like it used to be all those many hundreds of years ago. Not that long. But when Adventism was first getting started, it was begun in little bit. Well, they get the money together, they place the order, and the books come, and it's a little pile, okay? The hundreds of books in the front represent, from our perspective and our books, thousands of books that are in the back of the church, that all of the congregation are invited to go sign out a number, take them to your neighborhood, because they lived all over Havana. Like I said, people come from all over to this church, from their neighborhoods in orbit around Havana. Take them home to your churches and go give them away, which they did. And I didn't get a chance to be a part of that. A lot of things were lost in translation and da-da-da-da-da-da. 2 days before the church was supposed to go to the government offices and give the books away for the family day. And when I say government offices, I mean the town hall, the DMV, DHR, yeah, as well as the Ministry of and so on and so forth. Well, the Cuban government, because of the unrest in Venezuela and because of sanctions from the US, called for a special time. They called it a special time. The buses stopped running so frequently because they were running out of fuel, because they were running out of fuel and the buses and trucks weren't running so efficiently, they were running out of food, and on and on and on. Could tell you a lot of bad things about what's going on down there right now. I'm not going to do that. But the Cuban government said, look, for now, no evangelistic whatevers. They still have religious freedom, but that's all you've got. Right now, no visiting the government offices, no Adventist churches, no Catholic churches, no Pentecostal churches, no nothing. No tree huggers, no, special interest groups, none of that are right now to visit the government offices. So they went to just the neighborhoods. Well, in that day, all those thousands are gone. All those thousands of books are gone. But the next day, Julio and I met the people at this church right here. That is a church. This is my favorite picture probably ever. All right? And they're all holding our books, and they are as happy as campers. The pastor is on the right here, and I and Julio drove around the corner, and we went to a park area that was by a large apartment building. Standing outside a kindergarten here, all these ladies begin to come out, and Julio's giving the books. And those of us that have worked with the books in the Caribbean, and Cindy, I'm talking to you right now. It was just like that. You know how people are hanging out of office buildings in the town. Oh, give me, and you're throwing books up. Okay, it was the same spirit, the same. Oh, I want. Yeah, give me. Because life is tough down there, and they don't have, even if they had the money to buy things, they don't have access to things to buy. even the simplest of things. But when someone comes along with spiritual food, they want it. And you can be sure that the Lord is saying to them, you want this. And then an enthusiasm grows. Someone says, oh yeah, I want it. And someone else says, oh, well, I want it too. You know, it's like the reverse psychology. If you're in a crowd of people in New York and you're giving books away and one person says, no, thank you. 10 people behind them say, no, thank you. You know how that works. Anyone who's ever done that. Well, the absolute opposite is true here. Oh, I want too. I want, you know, and you can barely keep up. Like Russia was when we went to Russia. The enthusiasm was high. And we began just giving books to people on the street. It was easy for me because I didn't have to explain a lot. This gringo who doesn't speak a whole lot of Spanish. Este libre para ti. Libro para ti. You know, and they would take it and be on their way. But Julio and the pastor, they're talking some with the people. And
so you weren't prevented from handing out books?
Oh, no. No, it's nothing. I mean, in my mind, you know how you build a repertoire of how you want to handle this evangelistic whatever. When I first arrived in Cuba, I had visions of being arrested for taking this suitcase of books in, okay? And for anybody who is listening out there, if you want to take books to Cuba, do it. And go out and stand at a bus stop and give them to people on the bus stop. Drive past the bus stop, get out, give to people at the bus stop, drive off. You're free to do this right now. I hesitate to say you could do it with millions of books because you would get on a radar that would draw attention away from the government. And that is not what the government wants down there. The government wants to be seen to be the benefactor of the people. You cannot be the benefactor of the people. You can't go out and fix the road and say, look, I have fixed the road. They will tell you to dig it up and we'll fix it.
Wow.
Okay? But anyone who's listening to my voice, you want to go to Cuba, talking to the camera here, if you want to go to Cuba, go and get on the street. Go to apartment buildings. Go, just take a suitcase full of books. Go there and give them out until you have no more to give out. This is what we did. I've got to tell you about this. The bicycle taxis. At the beginning I said, remember this picture? We arrive at this little forest of bicycle taxi drivers. And the pastor, Julio, is giving books to this and this and this and this and this. And for the most part, everybody is very, thank you. See, gracias. Except for one who wasn't nasty, wasn't ugly, wasn't troubled, except to say, I spent 2 years in jail and everybody in the jail is the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. He said, but it doesn't change me. I'm still the same. And I caught onto that and I said, you know what? In my broken Spanish, I'm going to say it in English, but in my broken Spanish, I said to him, I said, at one point, I was like you. I'm never going to change, because nothing I had never met anything that there was no need for change. Change for what? What are we changing to? It certainly wasn't going to be the Bible. I said, but the contents of this book will make things better. Everything in your life will start to get better. It's not going to be perfect. And this book is not all that you need. This is not the only thing that is going to be required for a complete diet. But this book is going to make things, the contents of this book will make things better here. And we begin having a conversation about seeds and trees, and we're looking at similar fruit tree to this mango tree, okay? We're looking at this. And he's making the observation to me that this is not an accident. This This has not come from nothing. This has come from an organized mind. Something bigger and more powerful has created this. And this, for me, was one of the most special experiences that followed minutes after this picture was taken. And you know how we go through life, and there's much of this, and there's some of this, and a lot more of this, and then some of this. Well, this was one of those. For me, it was precious. All right, just a human interest. Have you ever seen a 50-foot tall mango tree? How many people have seen a 50-foot mango? 50. 3 of us, 4 of us in the room, 5 of us in the, 6 of us in the room have seen a 50-foot tall. Well, have you ever seen a forest of 50-foot tall mango trees? Well, welcome to Cuba. That is one single mango. That's my hand right there, and as you know, I've got big hands. This is a picture from the future that I took. This is of the new earth. No, it's not. It's a picture of what just hangs on the trees, grows wild in Cuba. That's me helping to fix a door, drilling, fixing a door. Here we are outside of that church, just getting ready to go. This is the car that we rented while I was there, from the 50s. Now, the only thing American about that car is the outside. It's got a Russian gearbox. It's got a Japanese engine. It's got, the wheels from who knows where. The inside still looks very American, but a lot of those cars going down the street have got... That's right. I mean, if they could get a lawnmower engine to work, they would. The people I stay with, the husband, he fixes these cars. They come to him all battered, paint falling off. They drive on the right and on the left and in the middle. The roads, if you've ever driven in New York, right? Now, New York gets bad weather. It gets snow and rain and ice, and the roads get totally torn up. And by the time springtime comes around, those roads are like the Grand Canyon. Well, the roads in Cuba are like that 24/7, 365. And so you're driving along, and someone is coming toward you on your side of the road, and this is not a big deal anymore because you know he's just avoiding the Grand Canyon. And then down the road a little bit, you're the one over there. And so you're supposed to drive on the right, you pass on the right, but everybody is all over the road. It's crazy. We sent a tablet down for Julio. Julio is an elder in his church who preaches much of the time. He holds evangelistic series much of the time. I'm going to tell you a story that we just do not have to deal with here, okay? Down there aren't air conditioners as such in the churches, for the most part. You've got these fans that are doing this. And then you've got the fans doing this, but the fans are doing this. So, more than once, Julio has been standing there giving his presentation, and he's moved just a little bit the wrong way, and the fan has done this, and all of his papers have gone whoosh. All right, now we would say, yeah. He said, Tony, if there's any way you could track me down a tablet, he said, I could preach from that and I wouldn't have to worry about this. And so somebody donated the money. Thank you, whoever you are out there in Camaraville. Somebody donated the money, and we turned it into that tablet right there. And he is very, very happy. Yeah. You know, there are some people who are pastors but don't get the paycheck. And they don't have the qualifications. No, that's not the right word. They don't have the degree or the paycheck. And Julio is a pastor. Just being around him and the conversations that we've had, the people we've visited, and while I was down there, most of my time was taken visiting members of the church. And that is who Julio is. So that was a godsend and a blessing. And somebody said to me while I was down, I was remembering this last evening, I was talking with one of the people at the bigger church, and he said, you know, you're bridges. You are a bridge from heaven to Cuba. And I thought about that, and you know, that is the absolute truth. God, for whatever reason, our Father does not do for us what we can do for Him. He empowers us to do the things that we cannot do. For whatever reason, I don't know why it just seems so inefficient to me. It really does. Does it not seem like, well, Lord, just handle it? Well, we, the big we, not the royal we, but we are a bridge from heaven to Cuba. We're a bridge from heaven to our neighborhood. We're a bridge from heaven to our family, as we were talking about in the Sabbath school earlier. We are sharing godly principles with people who don't have them. And all we've done is given, if you will, God a hand and said, here we are. This ministry exists to be a hand that is given across the bridge. And I thought about that, and I think that is really a priceless thought. That is Julio's neighborhood. Over here is his house. Charles, if I were to share with you the squalor that these people are living in, I would not have words enough, small enough, to tell you how bad many of their living conditions are. Not all. There are some people in Cuba who are, you know, you can get an education. You can learn how to fix these cars up, for instance. Make them look that way, like the taxis and that you see in the pictures and you see on the news and you see in the movies. You can learn how to make those look like that, and you can make good money doing it, but not everybody can do that. And Julio lives out in the country, and his family's interest are for the church, and he doesn't have money, resources, or time to get an education that would allow him to live in a better place. Share this thought with you. A good house to buy in Cuba would cost $20,000. A nice house, nice floors, hard floors, not carpets, but, you know, like you might expect in the Caribbean. Maybe air conditioning, nice windows, $20,000. Julio's house, maybe a few hundred, maybe less. Okay. Not that I have seen. No, I've not seen an oven. You're lucky if you find a toilet seat. I've told you all these things before. He is a street vendor. He goes with his wagon on the front of his bicycle with hot oil and this vegetable mix, a battery vegetable mix that he dips and fries and sells on the streets. And while I was there, I left him, he and his family, I left them some money. And I said, look, you get some things. Just get some things. And the mother, the wife, went out the next day and bought some rice that she could go and sell. Yeah, you know, and we could say, oh, well, it's, you know, the whole world used to live like that at one time. Yeah, they did, thousands of years ago. But, you know, you really wish you could make a change. You really wish you could make a difference. For now, we can't. For now, we don't have... The nice thing about communism is it doesn't last forever. They have white bread in buns or loaves.
Tortilla.
No, they have to buy the bread. They have to buy the milk. They are given rice and beans by the government. They each have a quota of rice and beans, but the bread is obviously baked somewhere and sent to local stands, And white bread, it makes up most of their diet, or the fruit hangs off the trees. And while I was there, there were food lines because of the and the sanctions put on by US ships stopping fuel coming to the island, so the fuel can't get in, it can't ship the food around the country, and so there are food lines, mostly for meat, pork, chicken. Those that ate mostly the fruit and vegetables weren't as affected by the food shortages, but there are definitely food shortages. Right now it's meat, tomorrow it's going to be bread, tomorrow, day after that. No, everything, no, it's everything going into the island from North Korea, Venezuela, Bolivia, Brazil. Yeah. I'd say yes and no. While we were there, we picked up some, last time I was there, we picked up some fish from the coast area that had been freshly caught. But that's the only time I've seen it. There's not a lot of fresh meat. The government provides much of the meat, and it's from frozen mountains.
Fish has to be iced out.
Yeah. There is internet available in centres, usually around the Catholic churches, which are the centre of the neighbourhood. Either the smaller towns outside, the centre of all of the small towns is the Catholic Church, rather large, semi-cathedral thing. They can go, they can buy an access code and get on their computer, put that, or their phone, everybody, not computer, they have a cell phone, mostly. They put in an access code and they can get access to the internet. They Facebook, email. They talk with a lot of people through apps on their phones with people in America. There's some things they cannot do. Everything is monitored. No, let's say everything is subject to being monitored. It's a bit like America, but they don't talk about it. Right? So everybody is careful what they say, who they talk to. You can't be a dissident without getting on a radar very, very quickly. You know, you can. I mean, it was really strange for me because we were sitting in one of these cafes, and over here is a screen, a monitor, a TV that's showing all the American music videos. Now, I don't know if you spend much time looking at American music videos. Yeah, I mean, okay, and that's up there on the screen. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this, and I said to Julio, I said, Julio, what sense does it make for a government to allow that to be seen by their people who cannot have that? The gold and the bling and the cars and the money and... Well, human nature wants that, okay? So, for my mind, the government is allowing the encouragement of their people to want to leave or to want to bring that here. You know what I mean? And it made no sense for me. And he said, I don't know. Now, what the thinking is behind that, I don't know. But
was there any other thing on the TV other than the music? Were they showing shows?
American shows. They were showing American shows on the TV with subtitles, English with subtitles. And I found that quite surprising. And Cubans don't have a problem with America at all. You know, it's the American public that's been fed this line that down there you can't have religious freedom. If you have a Bible, you're going to get arrested. Now, these stories are 50 years old. It's not like that down there anymore, okay? Cuba has been a well-kept secret from the American public for the longest time. But Cuban people, they look at America and they think, oh, it's the land of freedom, the land of... I know! Don't get me started. Simeon, I mean, we're talking royalty here, saying you cannot shoot the deer in the country because we own all the deer. All the fish in the rivers, you can't catch those without permission. You know, it's the same as saying you can't get married without a license. What? What are you... I mean, I know we say, well, we take that for granted. This is stuff we take for granted. But have you really ever stopped to think that through? God ordains something, and now you have to have a license to do it. It's just the way it is, we say. But some things really make no sense. They're not allowed to work as well as they would like.
Why aren't they donating? Why isn't the church donating? We're donating our books.
Because very few people go down there to see what can be done. Very few people in America are cognizant of the reality in Cuba. Yeah, they go down and they don't build, they renovate churches, or they change a home into a church. But many people, I was ignorant of what the realities were in Cuba until I went there. And honestly, it's not like we have been told. It's not that way. If ever that secret gets out, I feel there will be a lot more. You got to do it carefully, and you got to do it because of the US sanctions and because of the US rules and fences and regulations. You know what I mean? You've got to do it special, but it can be done. All right? And it's not a Cuban problem. It's a US problem. It's not a Brazilian problem. It's not a European problem.
Well, it is a good to the Brazilian process.
I think that's probably true, but I think we should try. Let's push the envelope. All right, let's see. Okay, it's like Jesus...
They perceived that the U.S. was doing...
I think it's like when Jesus came here. He was the ultimate envelope pusher. Let me see what I can get away with.
Yeah.
Here, Yeah. Absolutely. He's here, he's living among people who are, for the most part, especially religious folk, are being held in restrictions by the devil, the ultimate communist. The devil is saying, oh, you can only do. And Jesus said, yeah, all right, well, let's see how far we can go with this. And
His spirit.
yeah, with his spirit. That's right, and that's kind of how I feel we ought to be, as Christians. Forget the denominations. As Christians, we should be pushing the envelope to see what we can get away with. Godly things. Let's see what godly things we can get away with. Because for sure, even in this land of the free and the home of the brave, one day, all of that we have the ability to do now, right this minute, tomorrow, all of that could go away.
Absolutely, it's already done that.
And so, we can live in lament and regret and say, oh, I wish I'd done.
Anywhere else you've been in the world, was it just bad, the conditions are bad? I mean, the places that you've been giving out books.
We were in a couple of places in Antigua that behind, I stumbled across what I thought was a bicycle shed one day in Antigua, beyond and away from all of the tourist areas. And I hear somebody moving around in what I thought was a bicycle shed. It was thrown together wood, and the door, it was just a shack. It wasn't even a shack. There's nothing here small enough. I get to this door and I knock, and this little lady who comes out, and she's been preparing her food over here. Her bed is here. She's just little like this. Her bed is here, and she's fixing a bowl of food here, and she announces to me that she's 102 years old.
Oh my God.
And I was You know, there have been times in my life I've been affected, not guilty that I have privilege, and I call it privilege. We are privileged to live where the lights don't keep going off, even in Alabama. Okay, we've got air conditioning, we've got running water, we've got toilets at work, we've got toilet seats to sit on, we've got water we can drink, water we can clean our hands with, public toilets, okay. There have been times I've thought to myself, oh, I can't believe, is there anything I can do about this? And the truth is yes, and I'm not responsible for everything, and neither are you. But you can affect the world that you live in. And it's been a real blessing, real privilege. Charles, I know you'll want to...
Russia was not that bad, huh?
I didn't go to Russia.
Oh, you were in Russia?
No, I wasn't in Russia.
Most Adventists do not understand what we're doing. Okay? Oh, you're printing books. No, we're doing a lot more than that. I have on the bulletin board in my office a saying that a friend sent to me when we were just being born. And the saying is, never argue with a man who buys his ink by the drum and paper by the ton.
Yeah.
What we're doing is affecting millions of people. And I should have said we are infecting millions of people with ideas and thoughts that they have never been exposed to. And don't want to say too much. Yes, we're going to share a meal down below. Hope you'll share with us today. I really appreciate the fact that you're going to Cuba and I'm not.
That's what a good report.
Yeah, amen to that. We've been doing this for 3 years now. We first went down there three
Right.
years ago. And at first, I will never forget the look on the face of the person, the secretary that I sat across from in Cuba. And I said, we give books out all over the world. I'd love to give books to you here. And I'd love to give 2 copies of this book to each of your church members. And as the words were coming out of my mouth, I thought, tell me what a stupid thing to say. How in the world are you going to... And the visage on the other side
Right.
of the table was one of, eyes. Ugh. How in the world are you going to do that? And I came away actually doubting that we could do this. But I couldn't let it go. Couldn't just leave it.
We've seen God turn the corners,
And that's it.
open the doors.
We pushed the envelope,
Sure.
and wonderful things happen. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we're praying more and more wonderful things are going to happen. Just sooner the better. Sometime when you're visiting with us, take a few moments and kind of have a look at what these photographs represent. Dozens and dozens of countries around the world. And this is just a few of the places we have been. And I'll never forget a conversation I had with Joe White in Texas. Joe White was Billy Graham's front man for many, many years. If Billy Graham was going to XYZ country on the other side of the world, and he needed a stadium that would hold 5, 10, 20,000 people, Joe White is the guy who went and found it, made the arrangements, got everything ready, and carried it off. So when we were thinking large thoughts about going to Russia, someone said to me, "You need Joe White." Well, that someone said that because the Holy Spirit was working to give us that information. And I began talking. I never met Joe in person, but spoke many times by phone. When I outlined for him what we wanted to do in Russia, he says, some of that I'm sure can be done, but I really don't think you can get permission. And God worked it by overthrowing the Soviet Union just before we got there.
Just for us. He did the same in Ireland.
And if you've never been in a country where they have spies planted to follow you everywhere you go, record everything you say, that's what was going on in Russia. So we were assigned people who were going to translate for you, or they were going to do something for you. But what they were doing was spying, and then they became infected with what we were doing and what they were seeing. And the lady who was on one of the buses, she was the KGB agent and supposed to be spying on us. They ran low on diesel fuel, the trucks and the buses. And this lady had a card which says, I'm KGB, and whatever I ask for, you got to give me. And so they would pull over, and there would be a tank with the guns and all of this. There'd be a tank sitting at the crossroads in case any criminals come down the road. Anyhow, there'd be a tank sitting there, and men with their machine guns and everything at the ready. And this lady would pull over and say, fill our tanks. So they would have to pump the diesel fuel out of the tank into our trucks and buses. Yeah, talk about miracles. We've seen miracles. We're still seeing miracles. We are. I pray there will be lots more before we get out of here. Well, thank you, Tony, for going. And I believe things are going to turn around with Venezuela pretty quick. And if they do, they're going to turn around for Cuba as well. Yeah. Indeed. Well, the sun is shining. The air conditioning is working. And we want you to join us. Father in heaven, we owe you. We owe you. We owe you. We owe Jesus. Thanks for the work that heaven has wrought in our behalf. Thank you for another Sabbath. We thank you that we have had doors open to us in Cuba and many other places. Thank you for taking charge. Thank you for opening and closing doors. Thank you for sending people. Thank you for taking care of this work. It's your work. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for blessing each family here. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.